Good evening, and welcome back. Tonight, it's going to be something a little different. I'm going to be reading some of my favorite ghost stories from the Telltale Lilac Bush by Ruth Ann Musick. This is a rather favorite collection of ghost stories from West Virginia. So, go ahead and snuggle up with your beverage of choice and turn the lights down low. Get ready for some spooky. My first story, the Telltale Lilac Bush. An old man and woman once lived by themselves along the Tigard Valley River. There had been trouble between them for many years. Few people visited them, and it was not immediately noticed that the wife had unaccountably disappeared. People suspected that the old man had killed her, but her body could not be found, and the question was dropped. The old man lived a gay life after his wife's disappearance, until one night when a group of young men were sitting on his porch, talking of all of the parties which the old man was giving. While they were talking, a large lilac bush growing nearby began beating on the window pane and beckoning towards them, as though it were trying to tell them something. No one would have thought anything of it if the wind had been blowing, but there was no wind, not even a small breeze. Paying no attention to the old man's protests, the young men dug up the lilac bush, but they were stunned when the roots were found to be growing from the palm of a woman's hand. The old man screamed and ran down the hill towards the river, never to be seen again. My next story is a little bit more sad. The Little Rag Doll. Dusk was beginning to fall over a little country community. A tired school teacher was grading papers and looking over some of the work for the following day. It had been a beautiful day, and although her school board and also her landlady had asked her not to stay after school hours, she could not resist the urge to stay and work a little longer. After all, they would not explain their strange requests, so she thought nothing was really meant by it. Suddenly, she felt something cold, like a chill, pass over her from head to foot. She felt an unknown fear, and something told her to look at the back of the dreary schoolroom. Her startled eyes saw a little ragged girl sitting in the third row, last seat back. She had her hand raised and was looking pitifully at the teacher. "Please show me the lesson from my primer and teacher," she said in a broken voice. "I can't find my little rag doll." The teacher went back to the child and was astonished to see an old-fashioned primer, which had been used many years before. She was so amazed that she just stood there, staring at the little girl, and the child vanished from the room. The school teacher told her landlady about it later that evening. The landlady told her that this ghost had haunted the school for many years, and the school board could not find a teacher who would remain any length of time after seeing the little girl. They were in desperate need of a teacher, so they had asked her not to stay after school hours, hoping that she would never see the ghost. The teacher made a rag doll that night and decided about what assignment she would make if the little girl appeared again. The next evening, she intentionally remained after school hours. The little girl did appear and made the same request again. The teacher assigned the lesson and gave the child the little rag doll. The little girl then vanished as before. The teacher and the landlady went for a walk that evening and finally came to a swamp. Many years ago, the landlady said, a little girl had been murdered there. She was on her way home from school, and dusk was falling as she passed through the swamp. Her friends and relatives had never been able to find the little rag doll or the murderer. When they arrived at the child's grave, they were both amazed to find, lying on the grave, the little rag doll the school teacher had made the night before for the little ghost girl. The little girl never visited the school after that, and evidently her spirit is now at rest. The next and final story that I have is a little more on the spooky side. This is Shiny Eyes. My father, born in Italy and the oldest of 4 children, decided to do something to help the family. And in 1913, he came to the United States. Relatives from the Pennsylvania coal fields were waiting in New York City to take him back with them. They found him a job, and he immediately went to work in an anthracite mine located in Ligonier, Pennsylvania, and owned and operated by a Colonel Thomas. During the first year that he worked at the drift mine, a strange animal started appearing. It would walk to the mouth of the slope, look inside, then turn around and go back to its lair in the mountain. About 15 minutes after the animal had appeared, 2 or 3 men would get killed by a slate fall. The animal was about 8 feet long, 5 feet high, and about the same color as a mouse. It had 2 large eyes that shone like the headlights of a powerful automobile. Because of its 2 large eyes, the animal came to be known as Shiny Eyes. As many as 10 men at one time had shot at it as it slowly and warily walked from the mountain to the mine, and then from the mine back to the mountain. They could not seem to hurt or kill Shiny Eyes because it would just turn around, look at the men that were shooting at it, and then proceed to its mountain lair. This began to trouble the miners as well as the mine owner. Something had to be done to rid the community of the bad luck which Shiny Eyes was causing. The only solution was to get rid of Shiny Eyes. Colonel Thomas thought that he could make the necessary arrangements to do this. He made a deal with 2 brothers, Bill and Jack Robinson, who were supposed to be the meanest men in the mining town. He offered each of them $300 in cash if they would kill Shiny Eyes, he would also give them, each one of them, a high-powered rifle, a jug of whiskey, and pay them a day's wages. The two brothers accepted the offer, got their supplies together, and proceeded to a small shack that was located along the trail that Shiny Eyes always used. There they waited for it to appear. But before long, they had consumed their whiskey and were drunk. Jack decided to go into town to purchase another gallon of whiskey and left Bill to the shack to watch for Shiny Eyes. While Jack was gone, Bill fell asleep. He was suddenly awakened by a loud noise at the door. He looked up and fainted at the sight of Shiny Eyes. There it was, standing in the doorway, with its two shining eyes brightly glaring. It was not concerned with Bill, and proceeded to the mine. When Jack returned to the shack, he found Bill lying on the floor. He revived Bill, and the two then prepared to shoot Shiny Eyes as it returned to the mountain. Meanwhile, Shiny Eyes had gone to the mine and walked down the slope about 50 yards, turned around, and walked out. When it got outside, it looked down the slope once more. It then turned around and started walking back to its mountain lair. As it started up the mountain trail, Bill and Jack started shooting at it. But the bullets from the high-powered rifles did not seem to bother it. About an hour after Shiny Eyes appeared, the mine exploded, and 22 men were killed. This was the worst explosion that had ever occurred at the mine. But afterward, Shiny Eyes was neither seen nor heard of again.